Hi everyone, my name is Jenny and I'd like to share the process behind designing, developing, and evaluating my original game on medical terminology, Anamnesis. So let's dive in. So the concept for this game arises from my personal foray into healthcare. In terms of purpose, I wanted to develop a game which would provide future healthcare professionals with an engaging and interactive way of mastering medical terminology. As some of you may know, medical terminology can be a bit of a dry subject, heavily reliant on rote memorization, so I wanted to breathe life into the subject. My objective is, upon completing a level of this game, aspiring healthcare professionals should be able to match any Latin or Greek word element to the English equivalent with at least 80% accuracy. The prototype that I've developed primarily covers prefixes, but the game could easily be extended to cover a whole host of other word elements. As we've just discussed, medical terminology involves a great deal of memorization. From cognitive processing theory, we know maintenance rehearsal is essential to effective memorization. Anamnesis reiterates important information by presenting it whenever the associated object is clicked, summarizing the found information in the review, and asking players to recollect the information in the end-of-level quiz. Moreover, Prina and colleagues examined 100 students ages 18 to 25 from a large Midwestern university and found that rewards in video games positively affected declarative memory as well as spatial memory. As declarative memory is a crucial aspect of medical terminology, it stands to reason that the design of Anamnesis, which incorporates achievement rewards, may prove beneficial to students in medicine. Game-based learning has also been shown to improve interest in the sciences. In a study by Perez Manzano and Almela Baeza, 1,741 secondary students in the region of Murcia, Spain, developed an increased interest in becoming a scientist after taking part in their designed game. While the target audience of my game is individuals 18 or older, it could certainly carry a similar influence over players' interest in the field of medicine. So let's go ahead and take a look at the game itself. The game begins with the protagonist waking up groggy and meeting an old colleague, neurosurgeon Dr. Cristina Kakos. She informs you that she performed an experimental surgery on you and that, unfortunately, you suffered the complete loss of your medical knowledge. She tells you that you also have to complete a competency exam with your supervisor, Dr. Liu, by the end of the day. So, if you want to keep your job, you better start searching for hidden terms. The endgame objective is to find all 6 terms, and to win, the player must score at least 80% on the competency exam, also known as the end-of-level quiz. To give you an overview of Anamnesis, this is a combined visual novel and point-and-click adventure game. Gameplay lasts about 15 minutes and is designed to be single-player. Its technical form is a macro-enabled PowerPoint game, or .pptm file, which is designed to function on a Windows operating system, specifically on an Aspire A515-54 Acer laptop. The level of conflict is relatively low in this prototype, but could easily be increased in the extended version of this game. For example, the protagonist could later have the option to take revenge or be compassionate toward Dr. Kakos. Currently, the main source of conflict is how many times the player will retake the quiz at the end of the level. The element of chance is low to moderate in this game. It arises when the player is searching for hidden terms as well as when they're taking the multiple choice quiz. As for heuristics, the players have some agency to explore the hospital and will likely use trial and error techniques when searching for terms. However, this could also be improved in future versions of the game. The actual development of Anamnesis proved to be the most difficult stage of this process. I was faced with a number of challenges throughout the development stage, the first of which was finding the best platform to build this game. Because my coding skills are admittedly novice, I wanted to search for a platform that would be easy to use but also customizable. After a fair bit of research and testing several programs, I decided on GameMaker Studio 2. This program appealed to me because of its highly intuitive drag-and-drop coding option. However, most of the tutorials for GameMaker are for its other coding option, GML, which is similar to Python. As such, I found simple tasks to be extremely time-consuming, and so it was back to the drawing board. I ultimately decided on PowerPoint because of its familiarity, ease of use, and highly visual format, but even PowerPoint proved challenging for me. What I quickly found was that there are very few free resources on how to fully utilize Visual Basic for Applications, or VBA, for PowerPoint, especially for the types of functions I was trying to achieve. Nevertheless, I persisted and utilized a number of strategies. First, I sought help by going to a few trusted sources. I also posted in a few forums to see if anyone had experience with VBA. Doing so was invaluable as I received a lot of excellent suggestions and guidance. Moreover, I saw I could shrink the daunting task in front of me by revising my design specification document. By simplifying elements of my design, I could work with much more manageable goals. And the best way to keep track of those goals was to maintain a punch list, which organizes specific errors, potential solutions, level of priority, completion status, and so forth. So I thought I would give you all a sneak peek into the back end of my game. As you can see here, there are about 40 subroutines for the 8 quiz questions in each potential response. Down below, we have some of the subroutines which calculate the quiz score. Because there are 2 quiz results slides, one if the player scores above 80% and one if they score below, all of the relevant variables have to be prefixed with the slide number. Here it's slide 145. Note also that my code heavily relies on the number of a slide, so any change to the order of slides means completely changing the code. Next, if we go over to slide layout 58, which is the post-op room, we can see the macros for finding each of the 3 terms in that room. Again, you'll notice most variables have prefixes, and all those iterations of the same variable have to be referenced together. Because I was learning VBA for PowerPoint as I was developing Anamnesis, I didn't start out with the foundational knowledge of how to efficiently write code and create objects within the platform. If Anamnesis were to be expanded, it would be pragmatic to revise the core structure of the game. In the last slide, you all got a glimpse of how I had to add prefixes to my variables and cross-reference them so their values would be continuous over multiple iterations, i.e. slide layout 58 term counter instead of just term counter. This issue could be entirely avoided by the use of public variables in the module. Take a look at Leo Chen's code on the top left for an example. Additionally, slides can be renamed through just a few lines of code that you see in the bottom left, courtesy of Dr. Holmes. This would be tremendously advantageous as a developer could delete, add, or rearrange slides with ease. However, the slides will always be indexed by its original number. Anamnesis could also benefit from the use of a hotspot grid. As is, hidden terms are associated with shapes on top of the background image in the slide master. If the developer were to add several more levels, this would become quickly tiresome. One solution would be to create an array over the background image and activate only particular squares overlapping an object. The fourth way Anamnesis could be optimized for reusability is by building a repository of content. As medical terminology is an expansive topic, it would be worthwhile to store all possible multiple choice questions and answers in a database, which the game could then draw on. This would also make some forms of adaptivity possible, such as giving the player different questions or rearranging the order of answers upon retrying the quiz. The feedback survey was designed to gauge the overall player experience of Anamnesis. Motivation, satisfaction, level of difficulty, appeal of format, and comprehension are a few factors measured in this instrument. While these factors are subjective and self-reported, they provide useful insight into the effects of this instructional game. Because my game requires macros to be enabled, participants would have to view me as a trustworthy source. As such, I ultimately decided to upload my game, revision B5, to my Facebook newsfeed, the Instructional Technology Student Association's Facebook group, and the class discussion board. So, while participants may remain anonymous, it is highly likely that the vast majority are comprised of my friends, family members, and peers. This certainly adds a bias to the results. While the design of the feedback survey is certainly less than perfect, the results of the survey offer valuable insights. However, it's important to note that many participants experienced formatting issues on Windows operating systems, and the game would not function on Mac OS at all. These issues may have very well influenced the player experience, so we should keep that in mind. One common critique was that the terms were difficult to find, and that the cursor was difficult to see. As such, in Rev B6, I changed the hotspots so they'll be highlighted when the player mouses over them. Where the game appears to excel is in its format, storyline, and characters. Participants responded well to the immersive environment and cited the flow and plot of the game as strengths. Participants recorded high levels of motivation as well as high levels of understanding. In fact, 77.8% of participants used 0 retries on the quiz. This indicates that the prototype has a good overall structure and carries real potential for pre-med and nursing students. Based on feedback from the survey, as well as discussions with reviewers of the game, there are several changes I'd like to make in future revisions. To create a more accessible game, it would be beneficial to have voice recordings of all the dialogue and lesson content available. Additionally, if the player had more choices for exploration and learning, this might grant them more agency, which is known to improve motivation. Another way to optimize the game would be to either break up the quiz questions and sprinkle them throughout the game, or to interrupt the quiz organically, i.e., another doctor asking for a pencil. This could create a more relaxed and less stressful or traditional school-like environment, which can sometimes hinder learning. This sums up the process behind designing, developing, and evaluating the game Anamnesis. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation, and thank you so much for listening.